The alarm pierced the darkness at 0500 hours, but Elara Kincaid's eyes had already been open for 20 minutes. Old habits. The kind that kept you breathing when bullets started flying, and seconds meant the difference between going home in a transport versus a box. She silenced the clock with practiced efficiency, rolled from the narrow bed in her palace quarters, and began the ritual that had anchored her for the past 15 years. The dreams had been worse lately, running through forests on 4 legs, moving with grace that defied human biomechanics, hunting rabbits and tasting blood on her tongue. She dismissed them as PTSD manifestation, never questioning why her dream self moved with lupine precision or why she could identify pack members by scent alone. The therapist at Walter Reed had called them trauma episodes. Elara had learned to ignore the way her reflection sometimes showed eyes that glinted amber in low light, tricks of perception from a mind trying to process combat stress. 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, stretches that pulled at the scar tissue running from her left hip to her knee, legacy of an IED that had turned a routine patrol into her last day in Afghanistan. The field surgeon who had operated in the medevac helicopter had written in his report that the tissue regeneration he witnessed was medically anomalous. 3 months later, she was running again. Not normal. But Elara had spent 38 years being not normal in ways she couldn't name, so she filed it under luck and pushed harder. The mirror showed a woman marked by service in ways both visible and hidden. Lean muscle beneath sun-weathered skin, dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, eyes that had seen too much but refused to look away, brown eyes that sometimes, in certain light, held flecks of gold she told herself were genetic variation rather than anything stranger. Her dress uniform hung in the closet, pressed and ready, but she pulled on tactical pants and a fitted black shirt instead. The selection summit began today, nobles arriving with their daughters and their schemes, but her duty remained unchanged. Protection detail for the royal children. Everything else was politics, and politics got good soldiers killed. Elara strapped the Glock 19 to her hip, checked the magazine from muscle memory, chambered around. The weight felt right, necessary. 3 years she had walked these palace corridors, and the weapon had never left leather, but the day she got comfortable was the day she failed the mission. Complacency killed more operators than enemy fire ever had. The grounds patrol took 45 minutes, perimeter fence intact, guard rotations proceeding on schedule, East Gate sentries alert despite the pre-dawn cold. She noted everything, cataloged details, filed them away in the mental database that had kept her alive through 2 tours in hostile territory. The new gardener's scent was wrong, not suspicious in a way she could articulate in a report, but wrong the way only her instincts knew. Too much adrenaline, not enough morning coffee. Fight or flight chemicals that had no place in a man pruning roses at dawn. She marked him for investigation, trusting the senses that had saved her life more times than training alone could account for. Her nose had always been unnaturally sharp, another anomaly she attributed to genetics rather than examining too closely. The delivery truck at the service entrance arrived 10 minutes early. The driver smelled of silver polish, odd for someone handling food supplies. The metallic scent made her teeth ache in ways she couldn't explain. Elara watched until the driver produced proper credentials and the load matched the manifest, but unease settled between her shoulder blades like a sniper's crosshairs. By 0630, she stood outside the Royal Children's Quarters, reviewing the overnight security logs. No incidents, no anomalies, no cause for the tension that had plagued her sleep for 3 nights running. The door opened at precisely 0700. Prince Marcus emerged first, 14 years old and already carrying himself like the soldier he aspired to become. Military Academy had sharpened him, taught him discipline and duty, but his eyes still held the vulnerability of a boy who had lost his mother too young and understood too well that the world held teeth. His eyes flashed gold for just a moment when he was startled by her presence, a trick of the morning light through palace windows. Elara had seen the same phenomenon in her own reflection countless times. The boy moved with barely restrained energy, muscles coiled like a predator learning to walk in human skin. Nearly time for something, though Elara couldn't name what. The sensation was familiar from her grandmother's whispered stories, legends she had dismissed as senile rambling about wolves and moon blessings and bloodlines that carried gifts through generations. "Good morning, Captain." His voice had started to deepen, cracking occasionally in ways that made him flush with embarrassment. "Morning, Prince. Sleep well?" "Affirmative." Marcus fell into step beside her, matching her pace as they moved through the corridor. He wore his academy uniform with pride, every button aligned, boots polished to mirror shine. "Lydia says you served with the Rangers in Afghanistan. Is that where you got the limp?" Elara glanced at him, weighing the question. Marcus did not ask from idle curiosity. He asked because he wanted to understand what service meant, what it cost, what it demanded from those who swore the oath. Helmand Province, 3rd tour. My team was running security for a supply convoy when the lead vehicle hit an improvised explosive device. The blast killed 4 of my brothers and put me in a field hospital for 3 months. The limp is what I kept when I should have died. Marcus absorbed this with the gravity of someone twice his age. Princess Lydia appeared in the doorway of the morning room, 11 years old and sharp as broken glass. She looked up from the intelligence briefing she had been reading, her mother's eyes in a face still soft with youth, but hardening toward the reality of royal life. "Never ask a soldier if they regret their service." Lydia closed the folder and stood, smoothing her dress with unconscious grace. "It is like asking if they regret breathing." The choice was made long before they understood what it would cost. The girls studied Elara with unsettling intensity, as if reading emotions written beneath her professional mask. When Lydia's hand brushed Elara's arm in greeting, warmth pulsed through the contact. Comfort, safety, home. Elara shook off the absurd thoughts, but the sensation lingered. "Your Highness has been reading above her clearance level again." Elara kept her tone neutral, but Lydia's small smile suggested the child had sensed her approval anyway. "Mother said certain senses were a gift, not a weakness." Lydia's voice carried defiance mixed with grief. "She taught me to trust what I feel, not just what I see." "Do you trust your instincts, Captain?" The question landed with more weight than it should. Elara thought about the gardener's wrong scent, the silver polish that made her teeth ache, the dreams of running on 4 legs through moonlit forests. "I trust what keeps people alive. Everything else is speculation." Breakfast was served in the private dining room, security protocols maintained even here in the palace heart. Elara positioned herself with clear sight lines to both entrances, back to the wall, fingers resting near her weapon out of habit that would never fade. The children ate with good appetite, discussing the day's schedule with the efficiency of junior officers planning an operation. Marcus had combat training at the academy. Lydia had diplomatic protocol lessons with the foreign ministry tutors. "The summit begins this afternoon." Marcus pushed his empty plate aside. "How many contenders are expected?" 7 noble houses have sent representatives. Elara had memorized the dossiers on each candidate, their family connections, military resources, political alignments. Lady Seraphine Ashcroft of the Western Territories, Lady Helena Thorne of the Riverlands, 5 others with bloodlines dating back 300 years and ambitions that would reshape the kingdom if given the chance. "Father does not love any of them." Lydia spoke with the blunt certainty of a child who had watched her father grieve for half a decade. "This is strategy, not romance. He needs alliances to secure the borders and ensure Marcus's succession when he comes of age." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I will be ready when the time comes." Elara wanted to tell him that 14 was too young to carry such weight, but she had seen enough young soldiers forced into maturity by circumstance to believe her own platitudes. Some people were forged in fire from birth. Marcus was one of them. All she could do was make sure he survived long enough to grow into the leader he was meant to become. The summons arrived at 0900 hours. "Report to the king's study immediately." Elara handed the children off to their tutors, verified the backup security detail was in position, and made her way through corridors already buzzing with the arrival of noble delegations. King Theron Blackthorn stood at the window of his private study, hands clasped behind his back, shoulders carrying the weight of 13 years on the throne and the ghost of a woman he had never stopped mourning. He wore civilian clothes rather than royal regalia, simple dark shirt and trousers that reminded Elara he had been a soldier before destiny placed a crown on his head. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath, pure molten gold, not hazel, eyes that saw through pretense and measured worth with predatory precision. When he moved, it was with economical grace that reminded Elara of her forest dreams, power coiled beneath civilized clothing. The air around him carried weight, presence that commanded instinctive respect even from those who didn't understand why their bodies wanted to bow. Her pulse quickened in a way that had nothing to do with military hierarchy. Something stirred inside her, a presence she had denied for 38 years, suddenly straining toward him like metal toward magnet. "Captain Kincaid." He did not turn from the window. "Your report on the overnight security sweep noted concerns about the new gardener and the early delivery truck. Both have been verified through General Aldrich's intelligence network. The gardener is a veteran of the border campaigns, retired with full honors. The truck driver has driven that route for 6 years without incident." "Understood, Your Majesty. But protocols exist for a reason." Elara remained at attention, fighting the urge to move closer to him, to breathe in the scent of pine and gunpowder that shouldn't be detectable from across the room. Theron finally turned, and she saw the exhaustion in his eyes that no amount of discipline could fully mask. "Do you know why I requested your transfer from Palace Security to the Children's Protection Detail 3 years ago? You required someone with combat experience and intelligence training to assess threats that traditional guards might miss." "Partially correct." He moved to his desk, pulled a file from the locked drawer, and slid it across the polished wood toward her. "This is the autopsy report for Queen Isadora. The official one states she died from a broken neck sustained in a fall from her horse during a morning ride. This is the private report commissioned by General Aldrich 6 months after her death." Elara opened the folder, her training allowing her to absorb the medical details with clinical detachment, even as something cold settled in her stomach. Injection site on the left inner thigh. Traces of a compound identified as concentrated wolfsbane extract. Neurotoxin designed to induce seizure and prevent cellular regeneration. The fall had not caused the broken neck. The poison had dropped Isadora from the saddle, and death had been secondary to the chemical's primary purpose, stopping her from healing the way she should have been able to. Wolfsbane. The word triggered memories of grandmother's warnings about plants that burned wolf blood, flowers that smelled of death to those who carried the old gifts. Why am I seeing this now? Because the selection summit is not what it appears to be. Theron's voice carried the weight of a commander briefing his team before a high-risk operation. "I need a Luna to secure alliances and stabilize succession, yes. But more than that, I need to draw out the conspiracy that killed my wife." Every noble house arriving today had motive to remove Isadora. She was investigating corruption in military procurement, and her intelligence network had identified weapons smuggling to the Northlands. Someone wanted her silenced. Someone with access to the palace, knowledge of her routines, and resources to make murder look like misfortune. "You are using the summit as bait. I am using everything at my disposal to find the traitors who took my children's mother and left a kingdom vulnerable." Theron's hands curled into fists. "General Aldrich has been running a quiet investigation for 5 years. He recruited you 3 years ago because your background made you ideal for the mission. Army Ranger with intelligence training, widow of a soldier killed in action, no family connections to complicate loyalties. My late husband." Elara kept her voice steady through force of will. "Captain James Kincaid, combat engineer, killed in Taliban ambush 6 years ago. The official report stated his convoy took a wrong turn into hostile territory due to faulty intelligence." Theron's expression confirmed what she had suspected in the darkest hours of grief-fueled insomnia. "Your husband discovered irregularities in weapons shipment manifests 3 months before his death. He reported it through proper channels to his commanding officer. That officer was Lord Commander Dorian Greymore." The name landed like a mortar round. Dorian Greymore, Theron's former executive officer, the man who had served 30 years with distinction and now held position as the kingdom's supreme military advisor. "You believe Dorian arranged my husband's death. I believe Dorian is the center of a network that has been selling kingdom weapons to our enemies for profit and eliminating anyone who discovered the truth." Theron pulled another file, this one thick with surveillance reports and financial records. General Aldrich's investigation has identified shell companies, offshore accounts, and communications between Dorian and Northland's operatives. But we lack the final proof needed to move against him without triggering civil war. Half the military command structure owes their positions to Dorian's patronage. Arresting him without ironclad evidence would fracture the kingdom. So you need him to make a mistake. I need him to reveal the full extent of his network so we can cut out the cancer in one surgical strike. Theron met her eyes, and she saw the commander he had been before the crown. The summit will force his hand. He and his co-conspirators will try to place their puppet as Luna to maintain control of the throne. They will try to eliminate anyone who threatens that plan. He paused, and his gold eyes tracked to her mouth and away again. 3 years ago, General Aldrich identified you as carrying dormant wolf genetics. Silver wolf bloodline that skipped your mother's generation. Your grandmother was Captain Sarah Ashwood, Luna to Alpha Commander Marcus Blackthorne 2 generations back. You are pack legacy, Captain Kincaid. You just do not know how to shift yet. The world tilted. Elara gripped the desk edge, processing information that should have been impossible, but explained 38 years of being not normal. The dreams, the enhanced senses, the healing that defied medical explanation. Impossible, I would know. Wolves shift during puberty. Most do. Some carry the gene dormant until triggered by extreme trauma or mate bond recognition. You survived an explosion that killed your entire team. Your husband died 6 years ago. Either event could have partially awakened your wolf, but you have been suppressing it, attributing enhanced abilities to training rather than genetics. You are saying I am a wolf who does not know she is a wolf. I am saying you are a Luna who thinks she is human, and that makes you perfect for this mission. Dorian is looking for wolves. He will not see you coming. Theron's voice dropped, carrying harmonics that vibrated in her bones. You are also my mate, true mate, 1 in a million chance. I thought Isadora was mine, and losing her nearly killed me. But I was wrong. The bond was strong, but not true. You walked into this palace 3 years ago, and my wolf recognized yours immediately. I have been fighting it because duty demanded I choose political alliance over biological imperative. Her body responded before her mind caught up, heart racing, skin flushing, every nerve ending suddenly aware of the man across the desk. Not a man, an alpha, her alpha. No, she forced the denial through gritted teeth. This is manipulation, biological coercion dressed as destiny. It is biology offering what we both want and giving us reason to accept it. Theron moved around the desk with predatory grace. I am not asking you to love me. I am asking if you are willing to accept a bond you did not choose, with a man you barely know, to protect children who need a Luna strong enough to stand against enemies that want them dead or worse. I am asking if you will be the weapon we need to end this conspiracy. What are your orders, Your Majesty? Prepare for the summit. Observe. Report anything that triggers your instincts. And Captain? His hand brushed hers, and electricity jolted through the contact. Try not to suppress your wolf today. I need her awake and watching. The summit reception began at 1400 hours. Elara watched from her position near the Grand Hall's eastern entrance as noble houses arrived in calculated splendor. Lady Seraphine Ashcroft entered with an entourage of 20, including military commanders in dress uniform and financial advisors, whose presence sent a clear message. Seraphine moved with the confidence of a woman who had buried a war hero husband and emerged from grief with armor thicker than steel. 42 years old, beautiful in the sharp way of swords freshly honed. But it was her scent that made Elara's nose itch. Aggressive pheromones broadcasting dominance and fertility in chemical signatures that lesser women instinctively deferred to. Alpha female. The knowledge came without conscious thought. Seraphine was a wolf seeking to mate with the Alpha King, biology and politics unified in purpose. Lord Commander Dorian Greymore materialized at Seraphine's side as if summoned. 52 years old, silver threading through dark hair, posture military perfect. His scent carried bitter edge beneath professional courtesy. Resentment. Decades of watching genetically superior wolves command through instinct what he had earned through blood and service. They spoke in low tones, and Elara found herself able to hear conversations across the crowded hall with unnatural clarity. Her senses were sharpening, the wolf Theron claimed she carried finally stirring after 38 years of suppression. The king will choose me. Seraphine's voice held absolute certainty. The Western territories offer military strength he cannot refuse, and unlike these other simpering nobles, I understand what it means to lead a pack. Dorian's smile did not reach his eyes. Of course, my lady. And when you are Luna, Certain arrangements regarding military procurement will be favorable to all parties. Elara memorized every word, every gesture, building the intelligence picture that would eventually damn them both. The presentation ceremony began with traditional formality. Each noble house approached the throne, offering pledges of loyalty and outlining the benefits their alliance would bring. Seraphine's presentation was different. She did not plead or cajole. She stated facts with the directness of a military briefing. 5,000 troops, 3 veteran commanders, weapons manufacturing facilities, trade agreements worth millions in annual revenue. She offered partnership in the language of war and statecraft, and the room responded with the attention of people who recognized power when it spoke plainly. At 1900 hours, Marcus and Lydia made their formal appearance, required by protocol to greet the assembled nobles. Marcus wore his academy uniform with pride. Lydia carried herself with poise beyond her years, offering curtsies and pleasantries that masked the analytical mind cataloging everything she observed. "Prince Marcus," Seraphine approached with Dorian at her side. "You have grown since I last saw you. Your instructors at the academy speak highly of your tactical studies." "Thank you, Lady Ashcroft." Marcus's voice remained carefully neutral, but Elara saw his eyes flash gold for just a heartbeat when Seraphine moved too close. Instinct. Young wolf recognizing challenge from adult female. "And Princess Lydia, so like your mother." Seraphine's smile held calculation. She was a remarkable woman. "I barely remember her." Lydia's tone carried a child's grief wrapped in adolescent defiance. "But everyone says she was brilliant. An intelligence officer before she became queen, dedicated to protecting the kingdom from threats both foreign and domestic." The words hung in the air, innocuous on the surface but edged with meaning that made Dorian's expression flicker. Elara caught it, filed it away, moved slightly closer to the children. "Indeed." Dorian's voice carried smooth reassurance. "Your mother's dedication to the kingdom was absolute. Her loss was a tragedy we all continue to mourn." Elara's hand rested on her weapon, finger outside the trigger guard but ready. She scanned the crowd with systematic precision, threat assessment running on autopilot. The sensation of wrongness she had felt at dawn intensified. Danger approaching, predator circling. Her wolf knew before her human mind processed the details. The shot came at 1915 hours, the sound of breaking glass from the East Gallery. The supersonic crack of a high-velocity round passing through space Marcus had occupied 1 second prior. Training and instinct merged as Elara moved without conscious thought, body positioning to shield the children from the shooter's angle. Time slowed. She smelled the gunpowder 3 heartbeats before the muzzle flash, tasted silver nitrate in the air that made her gums ache. Silver rounds, anti-shifter ammunition designed to prevent healing and kill wolves. Her body reacted before her mind finished processing. Eyes blazed gold, heat flooding her vision as the world sharpened to supernatural clarity. Claws erupted from her fingertips in a partial shift she did not know how to control, bone and keratin extending with pain that was agony and liberation combined. "Get to cover!" Her voice came out wrong, harmonics that belonged to something not entirely human. Marcus dropped and rolled with training that came from wolf muscle memory awakening. Lydia froze, and Elara felt the girl's terror through a connection that should not exist. Pack bond forming, Luna protecting her young. The second shot shattered marble where Lydia had been standing. Elara pulled the Glock with hands that wanted to become paws, forced the transformation back through sheer will, fired 2 controlled shots through the window toward the muzzle flash. Her eyesight had sharpened to predatory precision, tracking movement in darkness that should have been invisible. Shots fired from East Gallery. Her voice cut through chaos with command authority enhanced by wolf harmonics. "Targets are Prince Marcus and Princess Lydia. I am pursuing. Secure the hall and protect the royal family." She went through the shattered window at a dead run, ignoring the screaming protest from her damaged leg. Adrenaline and awakening wolf physiology flooded her system with strength she could not explain. The climb to the roof should have been impossible. Instead, she found holds by instinct, damaged leg bearing weight that should have collapsed barely healed tissue. On the roof, she found him, Victor Cross. His scent confirmed it now that her enhanced senses could read the truth written in his pheromones. Beta Wolf, former special operations, hired gun who killed pack members with the silver rounds he preferred. Freeze. Her voice carried harmonics it had never held before, wolf authority bleeding through human speech. On the ground, hands visible, or I will drop you where you stand. Victor spun, rifle coming up. His eyes widened when he saw her partially shifted state, claws still visible, eyes still blazing amber gold. Impossible. Intelligence said you were human. Everyone makes mistakes. Elara fired twice, both rounds hitting center mass. Victor staggered backward, body armor absorbing kinetic energy, but transferring enough blunt trauma to drop him. Quick reaction force arrived 40 seconds later. Elara stepped back, adrenaline beginning to fade and pain rushing in to fill the space. Her claws retracted slowly, bones grinding back to human configuration. Her eyes cooled from gold to amber to brown. The partial shift faded, leaving her trembling and nauseated from energy expenditure her body was not prepared to handle. King Theron arrived as medics were loading the unconscious shooter onto a stretcher. He took in the scene with one sweeping glance, saw blood seeping through Elara's pant leg where the sprint had torn something deep. The children? Secure in the safe room. Elara forced herself to stand at attention, despite her body's demand to collapse. The shooter is alive for interrogation. I believe my return fire wounded him before he could exfiltrate. The rifle is military grade, suppressed, equipped with night vision scope. Silver ammunition, professional equipment, professional technique. You shifted, not a question. Statement of fact. Partially, I did not know how. It just happened when the children were threatened. Elara met his eyes, saw approval and concern mixed. I could smell the silver rounds, taste them. My body knew they were designed to kill wolves. Your wolf protected her pack! Theron's hand moved as if to reach for hers, then stopped as guards and nobles crowded closer. We will discuss this later. For now, you need medical attention and the shooter needs interrogation. General Aldrich took custody of Victor Cross, supervising transport to secured cells beneath the palace. Elara submitted to medical examination that revealed stress fractures in her leg from the impossible sprint, minor lacerations from the window glass, and metabolic markers suggesting severe caloric depletion. The doctor noted everything with professional concern, but made no comment about the readings that indicated her body had burned 3,000 calories in less than 10 minutes. The interrogation began at midnight. Elara watched through one-way glass as Aldrich worked Victor with the patience of someone who had broken harder men. The shooter was Beta Wolf, former Special Operations, exactly as her instincts had identified. He had been hired by an organization he knew only as the Crimson Syndicate, paid in untraceable cryptocurrency, given specific instructions to target the royal children during the summit reception. Silver rounds were insurance. Victor's voice was flat, professional, standard anti-shifter protocol for high-value targets from wolf bloodlines. The contract specified the ammunition. Someone wanted to make sure they stayed down. Who hired you? Victor remained silent, professional soldier who understood interrogation resistance. But Aldrich had prepared for this. He fed false information through compromised channels, let it reach Victor's network, made it appear the shooter was cooperating and providing detailed intelligence. 12 hours later, Victor received a message through his lawyer. His employers were cutting contact. He was expendable. Silence would be ensured through means more permanent than legal defense. Faced with abandonment and the reality of execution for attempting to murder royal children, Victor made the rational choice. He started talking. Lord Commander Dorian Greymore was his primary contact. Lady Seraphine Ashcroft was secondary handler. The network extended through military command structure and noble houses, all coordinating to maintain control of the kingdom through puppet rulers and profitable wars. Victor provided names, account numbers, communication protocols, but he also revealed something more disturbing. The Crimson Syndicate was not just selling weapons. They were developing silver production technology at industrial scale, enough to outfit entire armies with anti-shifter ammunition. The goal was not profit. The goal was genocide, ending wolfkind across the continent through systematic extermination backed by weapons that made healing impossible. And the architect of this plan, the leader Victor knew only as the Scarlet Queen, had access to intelligence files from a dead queen who had been investigating the same conspiracy 5 years ago. Theron summoned Elara to his private chambers after midnight. No guards, no advisors, just the two of them in the study where this had begun 12 hours ago. Your wolf emerged to protect my children. His voice was quiet, meant only for her. You shifted without training, without preparation, purely on instinct to defend your pack. Do you understand what that means? It means I am not human. Elara's hands trembled, exhaustion and shock finally catching up. It means everything I thought I knew about myself is wrong. It means you are exactly who I need you to be. Theron crossed the space between them, careful, like approaching a traumatized animal. Your wolf called to mind the first day you walked into this palace. I have been fighting it for 3 years because duty demanded I choose political alliance over biological imperative. But the bond is not slavery, Elara. It is recognition. My wolf knows yours, trusts yours, needs yours. I barely know you. I barely know what I am. How can I accept a bond to an alpha king when I do not even know how to control my own claws? We learned together. His hand cupped her face, calloused thumb tracing her cheekbone. I am asking if you are willing to stand beside me, to let your wolf emerge fully instead of suppressing her, to become the Luna this pack needs even though the burden is heavy and the danger is real, and the conspiracy we face wants you dead before you can claim the position. What are your orders, my alpha? The formal pack acknowledgement made Theron's eyes flare nova bright. Prepare to become Luna, Captain Kincaid, and pray that we both survive what comes when my enemies realize I have chosen a mate they did not see coming. He kissed her then. Not gentle, not political. The kiss of an alpha claiming his mate, wolf and man unified in purpose. Elara's partial shift returned without conscious control, claws digging into his shoulders, canines lengthening as her wolf surged forward to meet his. The mate bond snapped into place like lightning finding ground. Power flooded through both of them. Biological imperative and personal desire unified into connection that transcended choice. Pheromones flooded the room with sense of claiming and acceptance. Somewhere in the palace, wolves raised their heads, sensing their alpha king had found his true Luna. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard, eyes blazing gold, wolves barely contained beneath human skin. Tomorrow, we announce the choice. Tomorrow, the war begins in earnest. Theron's voice was rough. But tonight, you are mine, and I am yours. True mates. The bond the conspiracy cannot break or manipulate or control. Elara felt her wolf settle into contentment she had never known. Felt the rightness of standing beside this alpha, protecting his children, serving the pack she had never known she belonged to. Felt the weight of destiny that was choice and biology and duty combined into purpose greater than herself. The Guardian's oath had been passed to her through blood and bond. Now she would honor it with everything she had. Luna and warrior, protector and mate, human and wolf. The selection summit had drawn out enemies who thought themselves hidden. Now those enemies would face a Luna they had not anticipated, a dormant wolf awakened by love and duty in equal measure. Let them come, she was ready. The war for the kingdom and the pack had begun. The announcement came at 0800 hours the following morning, day 2 of what would later be called the Luna Crisis. King Theron stood before the throne in full ceremonial armor, every inch the warrior who had earned his crown through blood before politics gave it legal weight. The Great Hall held the noble delegations who had arrived expecting courtship and negotiation, only to find themselves witnessing a decision already made and immune to influence. I have found my true mate. The words sent shockwaves through the assembled nobles. True mate bonds were legend, 1 in a million, the foundation of pack stability when they occurred. The moon goddess has marked Captain Elara Kincaid as Luna through bond recognition that no political maneuvering can override. Elara stood beside the throne in formal tactical dress, feeling every eye in the hall measuring her worth and finding her insufficient. Her wolf wanted to bare teeth and challenge the judgment, but Luna meant control. She forced the instinct down, let her eyes shift to gold as proof of what she was. Captain Kincaid carries Silver Wolf bloodline, dormant until 2 nights ago when protecting my children awakened her heritage. Theron's voice carried alpha harmonics that made lesser wolves instinctively lower their gazes. She is Luna, chosen by biology and blessed by my wolf's recognition of hers. The bond is formed, the choice is made. Those who cannot accept this are free to depart with our gratitude for their attendance and our hope that future circumstances prove more compatible with their expectations. Lady Seraphine's scent shifted to rage barely controlled beneath aristocratic composure. We tested her 3 years ago. She showed no wolf markers. This is manipulation or delusion, not divine selection. General Aldrich spoke from his position beside the throne, 70 years of authority lending weight to his words. Dormant carriers can hide from standard tests. The silver wolf bloodline is notorious for skipping generations and awakening late through trauma or mate bond recognition. You were looking for an active wolf. You found a Luna who did not yet know what she was. The pack will never accept a dormant who cannot even control her own shift. Seraphine's eyes flashed alpha gold, dominance challenge that made Elara's wolf bristle with response. The pack will accept who their alpha chooses. Elara met the challenge without flinching, her own eyes brightening to Luna silver gold that carried different power. Not dominance, protection, healing, the ability to bind pack together through bonds that transcended hierarchy. Biology does not lie. Our mate bond exists whether you acknowledge it or not. Seraphine approached with predatory grace, stopping within arm's reach. Bonds can be broken. Kill one mate, the other weakens. Theron nearly died when Isadora fell. How long do you think he would last if you met with an accident, newly bonded and unstable? It was naked threat delivered with alpha confidence. Elara's claws emerged without conscious thought, rage and protective instinct flooding her system. Touch me and find out how dormant I am. Theron's hand caught her wrist before she could strike, his alpha command voice stopping both females. Enough. Seraphine, you will leave my kingdom within the hour. Luna Elara, sheathe your claws. The pack does not need to see blood spilled on what should be a day of celebration. After Seraphine departed with her delegation, Theron kept his hand on Elara's wrist until her claws retracted and her breathing steadied. Your wolf is protective. That is good. But control comes first. Partial shifts during anger mean you are still unstable. We need to get you through first full transformation, or you will be vulnerable to anyone who can trigger your rage. How long do I have? Days at most. The mate bond accelerates everything. You will shift whether you are ready or not. Theron's thumb traced the pulse point on her wrist, gesture both intimate and assessing. If it happens during combat before you learn control, you could be helpless for hours. Then teach me. Show me how to shift properly before circumstance forces it. Tonight, after we deal with the interrogation results and coordinate arrests. His eyes tracked to her mouth and away again. For now, we have a conspiracy to dismantle, and children who need reassurance that their new Luna will not abandon them the way their mother did. The afternoon passed in tactical planning. Victor Cross had provided enough intelligence to justify arrest warrants for 37 individuals, including Lord Commander Dorian Greymore and Lady Seraphine Ashcroft. General Aldrich coordinated with loyal military units, preparing to execute simultaneous arrests at midnight when conspirators would be least prepared to resist or flee. Elara spent hours with Marcus and Lydia, building the pack bonds that would stabilize her emerging Luna abilities. The children accepted her with eagerness that spoke to their desperate need for maternal presence. Marcus asked tactical questions about her Afghanistan deployments, processing her combat experience as training for his own future. Lydia simply held Elara's hand and radiated contentment through their developing bond. Omega healing, soothing the fractured edges of new Luna, still learning her role. You smell like father now. Lydia's observation was matter of fact. The mate bond changes scent signatures. Mother smelled like pine and rain. You smell like gunpowder and steel. It suits you better. The practical acceptance from an 11-year-old who had lost one mother and gained another in the span of 5 years made Elara's throat tight with emotion she could not fully express. Victor's interrogation continued through evening, yielding more intelligence with each hour. The Crimson Syndicate's operations extended beyond the kingdom into international networks. Dorian had been selling not just weapons, but classified intelligence about wolfpack structures, military deployments, and royal family vulnerabilities. The goal was destabilization, creating chaos that would allow the syndicate to profit from supplying both sides of manufactured conflicts. But the most disturbing revelation came near midnight. The syndicate had developed industrial-scale silver refining technology, lost since the Purge Wars 300 years ago, when wolfkind had nearly been driven extinct by human armies wielding the metal that prevented shifter healing. Someone had recovered the process from archived intelligence files, someone who had access to Queen Isadora's investigation before her death. The Scarlet Queen possesses your late wife's research. Aldrich delivered the news to Theron with grim certainty. Everything Isadora discovered about historical anti-wolf weapons programs, every classified document she accessed during her intelligence work. The Syndicate has it all. They are not just selling silver bullets. They are preparing for systematic extermination of wolfkind across the continent. Theron's eyes blazed with barely controlled fury. We execute the arrests tonight. No delays. If the Syndicate realizes we know their full scope, they will accelerate their timeline. The arrest operation was scheduled for 0100 hours, day 3. But at 23:30 hours on day 2, alarms screamed through the palace with urgency that meant only one thing. Marcus and Lydia were missing. Elara reached the children's quarters within 90 seconds, weapon drawn, every sense heightened to combat awareness. The scene confirmed her worst fears. Window forced open from inside, security detail unconscious from wolfsbane gas that had flooded the room through the ventilation system. Beds empty, sheets thrown back, clear signs of struggle despite the gas meant to incapacitate. Marcus had fought. She could smell his rage pheromones. The edge of first shift attempting to break through adolescent control. Scratch marks on the floor where his claws had started to emerge before someone hit him with concentrated wolfsbane. The compound would have knocked him unconscious instantly, prevented his wolf from completing the defensive transformation. Lydia's scent carried terror and omega distress, chemical signature that made every wolf in the vicinity want to protect her. The kidnappers had used that against the guards, probably flooded the corridor with synthetic omega distress pheromones to disorient security before striking. But Marcus had left breadcrumbs, 3 drops of blood that did not belong to either child. Elara tasted it. Wolf instinct to identify pack from enemy. Beta wolf, same scent family as Victor. Dorian's network. A single dark hair caught in the window latch. Female. Alpha. Not Seraphine's signature. Someone else. Someone they had not yet identified. Theron arrived with General Aldrich close behind. The Alpha King's wolf was barely contained, eyes solid gold, hands shifting between human and claws. The mate bond amplified everything. Elara felt his rage, his terror, his desperate need to hunt down those who had taken his children. Her own fury fed back through the connection, creating spiral that threatened both their control. I can feel them. Elara pressed her hand to her chest where the pack bond was forming. North. They are moving north fast. Marcus is trying to shift. I can feel his wolf pushing against the wolfsbane suppression. If he goes through first transformation during transport while drugged. Theron could not finish the thought. They both knew. Incomplete shift while unconscious could kill him or leave him trapped between forms, mind broken by the trauma. Then we get them back before that happens. Elara met his eyes, saw the Alpha King struggling with the father's fear. I need to shift. Full shift. I can track them by scent, move faster than vehicles can through terrain, but I have never done it. I need your guidance. First shift takes hours. We do not have hours. Then we compress the timeline. Use the mate bond. You said your wolf knows the path. Mine can follow. They prepared in a secured chamber, just the two of them, because first shift was sacred and violent and intimate in ways that required privacy. Theron stripped to skin without self-consciousness, Alpha comfortable in his own body. His wolf form was massive black beast with silver-streaked muzzle, power and age combined into predator that commanded instinctive respect. His consciousness touched hers through the mate bond, showing her the path. Surrender control. Stop fighting what your body wants to become. Let the wolf emerge instead of forcing her back. The pain was excruciating. Her scream became howl as bones shattered and reformed, spine elongating, skull restructuring. Every nerve ending caught fire. Every cell rewired itself from human to wolf. She felt her humanity fracturing, animal consciousness rising to meet it. Two minds struggling to coexist in body, not designed for both simultaneously. But Theron's presence in her mind guided her through it. His calm anchored her panic. His experience showed her how to let go, instead of clinging to human form through agony that should have lasted hours. What should have taken 6 hours took 20 minutes, and when she finally stood on 4 legs, her wolf form was massive silver white, with amber eyes. Luna Wolf, true bloodline, proof written in her very fur that she was exactly what the old legends described. divine champion of the moon goddess, marked for protection and healing, stronger than Alpha in ways that had nothing to do with dominance. Theron nuzzled her, approval and pride flowing through their bond. Then they ran together toward their children, two wolves moving as one pack, Luna and Alpha united by biology and choice. The hunt lasted 3 hours. Elara's enhanced senses tracked Marcus and Lydia through scent markers, invisible to human perception. Blood traces where Marcus's claws had broken skin during loading. Fabric fibers from Lydia's dress caught on vehicle door. Pheromone signatures broadcasting fear and determination that grew stronger as they approached the source. The compound was 50 kilometers north, abandoned military outpost decommissioned 20 years prior, but maintained enough to provide defensible position. Thermal imaging showed 30-plus heat signatures, heavily armed, organized in defensive perimeter that suggested professional military training. The tactical team assembled at 0400 hours, day 3. 12 operators, including Elara and Theron, mixed human and wolf. The plan was aggressive and dependent on precise timing. Diversionary assault at South Wall using explosives and heavy weapons. Sniper elimination of guards on rotation. Small infiltration teams scaling the north cliff face to breach central building, while defenders focused on the noisy southern attack. Elara led the infiltration team in human form, having shifted back and dressed in tactical gear designed to accommodate rapid transformation if needed. Her body ached from first shift and 3-hour hunt, muscles burning with memory of bones breaking and reforming. But her children were inside that compound, and exhaustion meant nothing compared to mission success. The explosives detonated at 0430. Southern Wall erupted with fire and thunder, mortars raining down, heavy weapons creating suppressing fire that sounded like conventional assault. Defenders rushed to reinforce the breached perimeter, exactly as predicted. Elara's team scaled the north cliff using fixed ropes and climbing technique enhanced by wolf strength and coordination. Sergeant Chen moved beside her, Beta Wolf who had served under Aldrich for 20 years. 2 more wolves completed the team, experienced operators who trusted Luna to guide them into hell and back out alive. They breached the central building at 0445, flashbangs and smoke creating chaos. Then methodical room clearing with suppressed weapons. 4 guards eliminated before alarm could be raised. The team moved like pack, coordinated through bonds that let them anticipate each other's movements with preternatural accuracy. They found the children in a secured chamber. Marcus was mid-shift, bones crackling as first transformation tried to force through against wolfsbane that prevented completion. His eyes were wild with pain and terror, young wolf trapped between forms, unable to complete the change or retreat to human. Lydia clutched her brother, Omega healing, trying to stabilize his chaotic biology. Marcus. Elara shifted back to human, not caring about tactical vulnerability, focused only on calming the terrified adolescent. Look at me. Listen to your Luna. I am here. You are safe. Your pack has come for you. Her voice carried harmonics designed to soothe frightened wolves, Luna authority that cut through panic and pain. Marcus's wild eyes focused on her, recognition flickering through the chaos. His incomplete shift slowed as her calming pheromones flooded the space, bones settling back toward human configuration. Good. She pulled both children into her arms despite nakedness and vulnerability. You fought them. You left us trails. You stayed alive. That is all that matters. Behind her, Theron eliminated the last guards with brutal efficiency, then shifted back to human to help carry the children. Chen and his team provided security as they exfiltrated, moving fast through corridors already filling with smoke from the southern assault. The helicopter extraction was textbook perfect, despite ground fire from defenders who realized too late what had happened. They lifted off at 0515, children secured, mission accomplished, compound burning behind them as the diversionary team withdrew. Marcus's first shift had been interrupted, incomplete. He would need to finish it properly under controlled conditions with pack support. But he was alive. They both were. Elara's wolf settled into satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Pack safe. The aftermath was systematic and thorough. Dorian Graymore was arrested during the pre-dawn hours while still sleeping, so confident in his network's security that he had no escape plan when loyal troops surrounded his estate. Lady Seraphine was captured at the border attempting to flee to the Western Territories. Her convoy intercepted before she could reach sanctuary. Victor's testimony, combined with evidence from the children's kidnapping, created ironclad case for treason and conspiracy. Dorian faced execution. Seraphine faced life imprisonment. The network that had killed Queen Isadora and James Kincaid and countless others was finally being dismantled. But Elara found no satisfaction in the victory. She sat on the palace tarmac at dawn, watching medical teams tend to Marcus and Lydia, her body aching from first shift in combat. The mate bond carried Theron's relief and residual fear, emotions too large to be contained in one person, needing to be shared through connection to be survived. Theron found her and sat beside her in silence, shoulders touching, presence enough without words. They had won this battle. The children were safe. The conspiracy was exposed. But something in Elara's chest remained unsettled, wolf instinct warning that the war was not finished, that darker threats waited beyond what they had uncovered. "Your first shift was beautiful," Theron finally spoke, voice rough with exhaustion and emotion. Silver Luna Wolf. The pack legends describe them as divine, chosen by the moon goddess herself to heal and protect. Some of the oldest wolves will remember the stories. They will see you and understand what you are. "I killed 4 people in wolf form tonight, and it felt right. What does that make me?" Pack, Luna, mine. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing. The wolf you have always been, finally allowed to exist. The bond chose correctly, Elara. My wolf knows yours, trusts yours, needs yours. She felt it through the connection, his absolute certainty. No doubt about her worth or her place beside him. She was his mate, and that was as fundamental as gravity, as inevitable as dawn. "I have feelings for you that go beyond the bond." The admission cost her, vulnerability she had not allowed herself since James died. "But I need to know they are mine, not biology forcing compatibility." The bond does not create feelings. It amplifies what is already there, makes it impossible to ignore. Theron turned to face her, eyes shifting to alpha gold. "You have been fighting attraction to me for 3 years. I have been fighting it longer. The bond just removed our ability to lie to ourselves about what we want." "And what do I want?" His smile held warmth that transformed his face from severe commander to something approaching the young soldier he must have been. "To protect those children, to find justice for your mate, to stand beside an alpha who sees you as equal rather than subordinate, to finally be the wolf you denied for 38 years. He leaned closer. "And to kiss me again the way you did when the bond snapped into place." Her eyes flashed silver gold in response. "That is significant assumption, my alpha. Then tell me I am wrong." She could not. Her wolf would not allow the lie. Elara kissed him instead, claiming and being claimed, mate bond singing between them with rightness that made everything else fade. They sat on the tarmac as the sun rose over the palace, 2 wolves who had found each other against impossible odds, warriors who had earned their peace through blood and sacrifice. 6 hours later, Dorian Greymore sat in interrogation, wearing silver collar that suppressed his wolf and prevented shifting. General Aldrich conducted the questioning with patience built through decades of breaking enemies who thought themselves unbreakable. 30 years I served Alpha Blackthorns." Dorian's voice carried bitterness that had festered across his entire career. "Your father, you, followed orders I thought were wrong because biology said you were dominant and I was beta. Watched lesser wolves promoted over me because their genetics were stronger. So you chose treason." Theron's voice was ice. "I chose reality over genetic slavery." Dorian leaned forward despite the collar. "The pack system is parasitic. Alphas rule because biology gives them pheromones that make other wolves submit. It is not leadership. It is chemical coercion. I wanted to create a world where merit mattered more than genetics. By selling silver weapons to our enemies, by killing wolves, by kidnapping children, by ending the biological tyranny that makes true equality impossible." Dorian's eyes held conviction of true believer. "You do not even see it. The pack loves you because they are addicted to your pheromones. They have no choice but to follow. That is not loyalty. It is slavery. I wanted to free them." Elara watched through one-way glass, Theron beside her, both processing Dorian's philosophy. Part of it rang true. The mate bond did influence behavior in ways that felt like compulsion. Pack bonds created hierarchies that were biological rather than chosen. But Dorian's solution was genocide, and that transformed philosophy into terrorism. He believes he is righteous. Elara spoke quietly. That makes him more dangerous than simple greed. Beliefs do not excuse murder. Theron's hand found hers, familiar gesture that grounded them both. He chose to kill rather than reform. That is where philosophy becomes crime. The interrogation continued for hours, yielding intelligence that painted a picture of conspiracy far larger than anyone had anticipated. The Crimson Syndicate operated across 3 continents, coordinating with multiple governments, planning systematic extermination of wolfkind through weapons that made healing impossible. And at the center of it all, the Scarlet Queen who possessed Queen Isidora's intelligence files and seemed to know wolf vulnerabilities with intimate precision that suggested personal experience. Seraphine broke after 12 hours, her alpha pride insufficient armor against execution. She talked about quarterly meetings where syndicate leadership gathered under diplomatic immunity, protected by international law and neutral territory agreements. She provided dates, locations, details of security protocols. Next meeting is 7 days from now. Blackport, the Grand Continental Hotel. Everyone who matters in the organization will be there. She looked up with something approaching hope. I can provide access codes, identities, everything you need to capture them all, in exchange for clemency. Aldrich studied the information with tactical mind that had planned hundreds of operations. This could be trap. Bait to draw us onto foreign soil where we have no authority. Or it could be our chance to cut off the head in one strike. Theron looked at Elara. What does your Luna sense tell you? She closed her eyes, let her emerging abilities guide her, felt truth and desperation mixed in Seraphine's scent. The woman wanted to survive, and cooperation was her only path. That does not mean she is not also being used by handlers who want us to walk into ambush. Then we plan for both scenarios. Theron's expression hardened into command mode. Small team, covert insertion, capture rather than kill. If it is legitimate opportunity, we take it. If it is trap, we extract and adapt. The planning consumed 3 days. 6 operators, including Elara. Intelligence specialists with language skills. Combat medics. Infiltration as hotel staff and guests. Planting surveillance. Identifying targets. Coordinating simultaneous room entries when security was minimal. The night before departure, Elara found sleep impossible. She stood on her quarters balcony watching palace grounds, thinking about James and the investigation that had gotten him killed, thinking about Isidora and the price she had paid for doing what was right, thinking about Marcus and Lydia, children who deserved kingdom where justice meant something. Theron found her there, bringing whiskey and understanding. They stood together in silence, watching stars that had witnessed countless human dramas and would continue burning long after current players left the stage. I cannot order you to undertake this mission. His voice was quiet. The risks are substantial. Diplomatic incident if you are caught. International prison if local authorities identify you before extraction. Death if the syndicate realizes what you are attempting. I know the risks. I also know what happens if we do not act. More weapons smuggled. More wars started. More good people killed for profit. James died fighting this enemy. I will not let his sacrifice mean nothing, if you do not return. Theron turned to face her. I need you to know that what began as tactical alliance has become more. You are not just the Luna I chose for political necessity. You are the woman I trust with my children's lives and my kingdom's future. You are the person I want beside me when battles come and peace follows. We should not have this conversation before a mission. Emotion compromises tactical thinking. Call me Theron. At least here in private, let me be the man rather than the king. His hand cupped her face. And tell me you will come back because I cannot lose another mate to this war. I will do everything in my power to complete the mission and return alive. She squeezed his hand, feeling the connection pulse. But if something happens, you need to choose another Luna, someone who can guide the children. Do not let my death stop you from securing what the kingdom requires. Nothing could replace you, but I will honor your wishes if the worst happens, and I will make certain that your sacrifice results in justice that makes the deaths meaningful. They stood together until dawn broke over distant mountains, 2 wolves bound by choice and biology, preparing for battle that would either end the conspiracy or cost them everything. The mission to Blackport would determine which future awaited. But tonight, they had each other, and that would have to be enough. The flight to Blackport took 8 hours through commercial routes, day 10 since the mate bond had formed. Elara wore conservative business attire over concealed body armor, carried legitimate documentation, establishing her cover as security consultant. The team traveled separately, arriving through different terminals, no obvious connection between operatives who would converge only when the mission went active. Blackport occupied neutral ground established after the Shifter Wars, where wolves and bears and other species could meet without territory conflicts. The city maintained strict no-shifting ordinances enforced by silver-armed peacekeepers who did not care about pack politics. Any wolf who transformed within city limits faced immediate detention and deportation. The Grand Continental Hotel rose 20 stories of glass and steel in the diplomatic quarter, designed to accommodate international conferences under agreements that made it effectively sovereign territory. Local law enforcement could not enter without invitation. Perfect sanctuary for criminals who understood how to exploit legal loopholes. Elara checked in under her cover identity, confirmed her reservation, allowed staff to escort her to 15th floor accommodations. Once alone, she swept the room for surveillance, confirmed security measures, then began methodical preparation for operations scheduled to begin in 14 hours. The team assembled in her room at 2200 hours, 6 operators bringing specialized skills and absolute commitment to mission success. Sergeant Chen coordinated tactical elements. 2 intelligence specialists handled electronic warfare. Combat medic prepared field trauma protocols. Everyone understood the stakes. The syndicate leadership occupied suites on the 18th floor. 7 high-value targets spread across 4 rooms. Hotel security followed predictable patterns. Night staff was minimal. Local authorities had been paid to maintain distance and ignore unusual activity. Insertion at 0300. Chen laid out timeline with precision born from executing similar operations in hostile territory. Simultaneous breaching of all 4 suites. Tranquilizer rounds to incapacitate targets. Flex cuffs and transport bags. Extraction through service elevator to basement parking where vehicles waited. Exfiltration across border before alarm raised. What if they resist with lethal force? One specialist asked the question that everyone had considered. Then we adapt. Elara kept her voice steady. Preference is capture for trial. But if deadly force becomes necessary to protect team or complete mission, we are authorized. These are war criminals responsible for thousands of deaths. Their survival is desirable but not mandatory. The weight stretched toward 0300 with agonizing slowness. Elara used the time to center herself, running mental rehearsal of breach sequence, controlling the wolf that wanted to hunt these enemies with claws rather than tactics. Luna meant thinking strategically, not giving in to predator instincts no matter how satisfying the violence would be. At 0250, the team moved into position. Service corridors provided routes avoiding cameras and security patrols. They reached the 18th floor through back stairs, positioned outside each target suite with weapons ready and wolves leashed beneath human discipline. All teams report. Elara's voice was steady through encrypted comms. 4 confirmations. Everyone in position, ready to execute on her command. Breach in 30 seconds. She watched digital timer count down, controlled her breathing, felt pack bonds humming with readiness. At 0, she spoke one word. Execute. Breaching charges fired simultaneously, shaped explosives blowing door locks with precision that was loud but not destructive enough to trigger building-wide alarms. Flashbangs followed, then entry teams flowing through openings with practiced efficiency. Elara's target was Northwest Suite. She moved through smoke, found her objective in bed, reaching for weapon on nightstand. She fired twice, tranquilizer rounds hitting center mass, sedation taking effect before the man could arm himself or trigger panic button. Clear. She keyed radio and heard similar reports from other teams. All 7 targets secured without casualties or complications. They were loading sedated prisoners into vehicles when Dorian Graymore emerged from parking garage shadows. Elara's wolf recognized him instantly despite impossible timing. He had escaped custody during prisoner transfer 3 days ago, using inside help that confirmed conspiracy reached deeper into palace security than anyone suspected. Now he stood between the team and extraction, weapon drawn, expression showing man who had nothing left to lose. Step away from the vehicles. Dorian's voice carried command authority developed through 3 decades of military service. You are operating on foreign soil without legal authority. Release the prisoners, and I will allow you to leave peacefully. Lord Commander, you are under arrest for treason, conspiracy, and murder. Elara positioned herself between her team and the threat. Surrender your weapon and submit to custody. I think not. Dorian moved with speed impressive for 52 years, closing distance and firing in fluid motion. The shot went wide, impacting vehicle but missing flesh. Elara returned fire, controlled pairs hitting body armor and staggering him backward. Then it became hand-to-hand combat between two veterans who had trained in the same systems and understood each other's capabilities. They fought through the parking garage with brutal efficiency. Dorian was larger, stronger, experience giving him advantage in raw power. Elara was faster, wolf reflexes making her movements liquid violence. She blocked knife thrust, countered with elbow strike that cracked ribs. He absorbed the hit and responded with takedown that put her on concrete. This is for James. Her voice was cold fury given form. For every soldier you murdered to protect your profits. For every wolf you killed with silver because biology made you feel inferior. She executed combination James had taught her during training that felt like lifetime ago. Throat strike disrupted breathing. Knee strike hyperextended joint. Weapon retention that left Dorian on the ground with his own pistol pressed against his skull. Chen materialized with restraints. We need to move. Local security will respond to gunfire. They loaded Dorian with other prisoners, all sedated and secured. The convoy departed before authorities arrived, crossing border into kingdom territory where legal jurisdiction allowed proper detention and trial. Back at the palace, the real investigation began. The captured syndicate leaders talked to save themselves, each betraying the others in cascade of revelations. Financial records, communication logs, names of government officials who had been compromised. The scope was staggering, conspiracy that had operated for decades across multiple nations. But the most critical intelligence came from forensic analysis that General Aldrich delivered to Theron and Elara on day 14 with expressions suggesting he wished the results were different. The DNA analysis of the prisoner identified as the Scarlet Queen returned impossible conclusion. The woman was Queen Isadora Blackthorne, age 45, alive despite funeral and 5 years of mourning. Theron received the news in his private study, and Elara watched his carefully maintained composure shatter like glass under sledgehammer. That is impossible. My wife died 5 years ago. I attended her funeral. I mourned her loss. The DNA is conclusive. Aldrich spread forensic reports across desk with hands that showed slight tremor. Fingerprints match records from her intelligence service file. Facial recognition confirms identity despite surgical alterations. Your Majesty, Queen Isadora did not die in that riding accident. She faked her death to go deep cover into the syndicate. Why? The question came from Elara. Why fake death rather than simply resign and join operation under different identity? Because the syndicate would never trust a queen. Aldrich pulled additional files. Isadora spent 2 years investigating the weapons smuggling before she died. She discovered the conspiracy reached too high in kingdom hierarchy to expose through normal channels. So she created the Scarlet Queen identity, arranged her own assassination using wolfsbane to simulate death, and infiltrated the organization to destroy it from within. Then why is she sitting in our detention cell facing charges as criminal rather than being debriefed as intelligence asset? Because she went rogue. Isadora's operation was never authorized. She told no one, not even me. And somewhere in those 5 years underground, she stopped being intelligence officer gathering evidence and became what she pretended to be. Aldrich's voice carried weight of delivering truth that would cause pain. Medical examination revealed the mechanism. Isadora had used wolfsbane suppression at levels that should have killed her, systematically destroying her own wolf from inside to break the mate bond that would have killed Theron when she faked her death. The bond had tried to take him with her, but there was nothing left on Isadora's end to anchor to. She had murdered her own wolf to sever the connection. The ultimate sin against wolfkind. Rejecting pack, killing the animal inside, becoming hollow thing that wore human skin but had no soul beneath it. They brought Isadora to secured interrogation on day 15. She looked 45 but moved like 60, wolfsbane damage aging her beyond her years. Still beautiful in the way broken glass catches light, but shattered beyond any hope of repair. Theron saw her and his wolf howled in anguish through their mate bond. Elara felt his pain like physical blow, grief and fury and betrayal mixing into emotion too large for one person to contain. She sent steadying calm through their connection, anchoring him enough to face the woman who had been his first mate. "Hello, husband." Isadora's voice was unchanged despite everything else. "I wondered when you would find me. Hoped you would not, honestly. Seeing you again is difficult. You killed our bond, destroyed your own wolf, became the enemy you swore to fight." Theron's voice shook with barely controlled rage. "Why? Why not trust me to help you? Why choose this path?" "Because the bond was prison." Isadora met his eyes without shame. "Your wolf's need for me, my wolf's need for you, biological imperative overriding every rational thought. I could not investigate properly while shackled by mate instinct that made protecting you more important than stopping genocide. So I broke the chain. Nearly killed me. Should have killed me. But wolfsbane suppression let me survive long enough to sever the bond completely. You blame him for biology." Elara spoke for the first time. "But you chose to destroy yourself rather than trust your mate." "Trust?" Isadora laughed, bitter sound. "The bond does not allow trust, only obedience. Luna submits to Alpha. Pack serves hierarchy. There is no choice, no free will, only biological programming. I chose reality over fairy tale." She looked at Elara with something approaching pity. "You feel it too. The pull toward him that has nothing to do with who he is and everything to do with pheromones your body cannot resist. You call it love. I call it slavery. Our children." Theron's voice cracked. "You ordered them kidnapped, threatened. You would have killed them to protect your operation. I ordered them frightened, used as leverage to prevent you from choosing unwisely." Isadora's expression showed no remorse. "They are yours and mine genetically, yes. But they are also future pack leaders who will perpetuate a system built on biological tyranny. Sometimes ending a cycle before it continues is mercy." The words landed like physical blows. This was not the woman Theron had loved. This was corrupted thing wearing familiar face, speaking philosophy that justified any atrocity in service of warped vision of freedom. "You will face trial." Theron stood, unable to remain in same space. "Every crime committed under Scarlet Queen identity. When you are convicted, I will sign the execution order personally, and I will not attend because the woman I loved died 5 years ago. You are just the monster that survived her." The coronation was scheduled for day 17 despite chaos of trials and diplomatic complications. The palace chapel had been prepared with ceremony honoring tradition while acknowledging the unconventional nature of the Luna being elevated. No noble houses sent representatives after Seraphine's disgrace. The assembly consisted of military veterans who had served with Elara, palace staff who had witnessed her dedication, and common citizens who understood merit mattered more than bloodline. Marcus and Lydia stood as witnesses, wearing formal clothes but carrying themselves with dignity of people who had survived trauma and emerged stronger. They had requested to attend despite everything, and Theron had agreed because hiding them from reality served no purpose when reality had invaded their lives with violence. General Aldrich conducted the ceremony in his role as Kingdom's senior military officer and pack elder. The crown was simple silver worked with wolf motif, symbolizing protection rather than dominance. "Do you, Elara Kincaid, swear to protect this realm against all enemies foreign and domestic, to stand beside the Alpha King in times of war and peace, to guide the next generation with wisdom earned through service and sacrifice?" "I do." Her voice carried through the chapel with certainty that needed no amplification. "Do you accept the burden of leadership, knowing that decisions made will shape lives and that mistakes carry consequences measured in blood?" "I do." "Then, by authority vested in me through military tradition and kingdom law, I recognize you as Luna." Aldrich placed the crown on her head, and power flooded through her as pack bonds snapped fully into place. Every wolf in the kingdom, hundreds of consciousnesses brushing against hers. Children, warriors, mothers, fathers, the pack, whole and enormous and terrifyingly vulnerable. "Rise, Luna Elara." She stood, turned to face the assembly, and saw respect in every eye. Veterans saluted, citizens bowed. Children watched with hope that tomorrow might be better than today because someone strong enough to protect them had accepted the burden. The ceremony was interrupted by alarms that screamed through palace corridors. Attack, 500 strong force breaching multiple entry points. Elara's wolf surged forward with combat readiness, but Luna meant more than fighting. It meant coordinating defense through pack bonds that let her direct every wolf like neurons firing through shared nervous system. Isadora had escaped during transport, freed by inside operatives who had evaded Aldrich's purge. Now she led army of rogues, Northlands operatives, and hybrid abominations modified through genetic experimentation that violated every natural law. She had come for the coronation specifically, timing the assault to maximum psychological impact. "Kill the false Luna!" Isadora's voice carried through the chaos with authority she no longer deserved. "Show them that wolves who embrace biological slavery deserve extinction. Free them through silver and fire." The battle that erupted was savage beyond anything Elara had experienced in Afghanistan. Isadora had brought weapons specifically designed to kill wolves. Silver-tipped claws on her hybrid soldiers, wolfsbane gas grenades that prevented shifting, sonic weapons disrupting the coordination that made pack fighting effective. Elara led Palace Guard with Luna authority, using pack bonds to create perfect tactical harmony. She could feel every wolf, direct them, pull injured back before fatal wounds, and send fresh defenders forward. The coordination was superhuman, transcending normal military command through biological connection that made her forces move like single organism. Theron fought in wolf form at the front lines, massive black alpha tearing through hybrid abominations with claws and fangs. But even his strength had limits against hundreds of enemies armed with anti-wolf technology. Marcus shifted. Fully. First complete transformation, triggered by mortal danger and overwhelming need to protect his pack. The 14-year-old boy became Grey Wolf, smaller than his father, but no less fierce. He fought with instincts that needed no training, young alpha defending his home. Lydia could not shift, but her Omega healing became critical asset. She moved through the battle, touching wounded wolves, accelerating their regeneration enough to send them back into combat. Her small hands glowing with lunar light as the moon goddess's gift manifested through desperation and courage. Elara fought in constant flux between forms, wolf for speed and predatory strikes, human for weapons and tactical coordination. The combination was devastating, Luna in her prime using every tool available. The turning point came when Isadora revealed her final weapon. She shifted into corrupted wolf form that should have been impossible after years of wolfsbane suppression. But genetic modification and chemical enhancement let her transform into thing that was wolf in shape only. Larger than any natural shifter, burning with unnatural energy, screaming with agony every second she maintained the form. "I perfected it." Her voice was distorted through modified throat. "Hybrid serum that allows shifting without pack bonds. Freedom from biological slavery. I will kill you all and rebuild the species without alpha dominance or Luna submission." She launched herself at Theron, and the battle became personal. Former mates fighting to death. Alpha King versus corrupted Luna. Theron was stronger, but Isadora felt no pain, modifications making her immune to damage that should incapacitate. Elara joined the fight without hesitation, 2 against 1, Luna and Alpha working in perfect synchronization through their bond. They moved as one organism, Theron's strength and Elara's speed creating combination that even modified Isadora could not match. Marcus fired from defensive position, the rifle he had trained with at Academy. His shot hit Isadora's secondary weapon, disarming her mid-strike. "Stand down, Mother." His young voice carried more authority than it should. "You are beaten." Isadora laughed, broken sound. "I am already dead, son. Have been for 5 years. This is just execution catching up." She lunged not at Theron or Elara, but at Lydia, going for the Omega Princess, trying to kill the future even in defeat, trying to end the bloodline that would perpetuate what she saw as biological slavery. Elara moved on pure instinct, Luna protecting Pack, and fired 2 shots center mass. Silver rounds, the only ammunition guaranteed to stop modified shifter. They punched through Isadora's corrupted form, and she collapsed, shift failing as damage exceeded even enhancement's capacity to heal. She reverted to human, lying broken and bleeding, looking almost peaceful despite carnage surrounding her. "Thank you." Isadora's whisper was for Elara alone, for ending it. I could not stop myself. The modifications, the anger, the certainty I was right, consumed everything. But you are what I should have been, Luna strong enough to stand beside Alpha without losing herself, protect them, my children, when I could not. She died before anyone could answer, blood pooling beneath her on marble that had witnessed 10 generations of pack history. The battle ended with their leader's fall. Remaining attackers surrendered or fled. The palace was secured. Casualties were counted. 43 pack members dead. 112 enemies eliminated. Victory measured in blood that would stain stone for generations. Theron held Elara as the sun rose over the battlefield. 2 wolves who had survived impossible odds, mate bond carrying grief and relief and love too large for words. Around them, the pack began recovery, wolves shifting back to human, medics treating wounded, soldiers securing prisoners. It is finished. Theron's voice was rough. The conspiracy is broken. Isadora is gone. We have won. For now. Elara looked at the carnage, at the children who would carry scars from this night forever, at the pack that had lost too many defending what should have been celebration. But there will always be enemies, always be threats. That is why we serve. Marcus and Lydia joined them, still wearing their coronation clothes now torn and blood-stained. They had fought in the battle, young wolves proving themselves through fire. They deserved acknowledgement of what they had survived. You did well. Elara gathered both children into embrace that was Luna and Mother combined. You protected your pack, honored your mother's memory by being stronger than her darkness. Your father and I are proud. The trials concluded over following weeks. Dorian was executed for treason after military tribunal. The syndicate leadership faced international courts. Justice was served with methodical precision that gave no satisfaction but provided closure. 6 months passed. The palace returned to rhythms that felt almost normal despite everything that had changed. Elara stood in the war room, visibly pregnant now, reviewing border threat assessments, while her wolf settled into contentment of carrying the Alpha King's heir. Marcus stood beside her, 15 years old and more confident in his skin, helping coordinate patrol schedules. His wolf was strong and growing stronger, young Alpha preparing to lead someday when his father stepped down. Lydia worked at intelligence desk, 12 years old and already showing analytical brilliance combined with omega gifts that made her invaluable. She still could not shift, might never shift, if her genetics prioritized healing over combat transformation. But she had found her place regardless. Theron entered from morning border inspection, moving straight to Elara with hands settling on her rounded stomach. "How are my pups?" Active, restless, like their father. She leaned into him, accepting comfort from mate's presence. The bond had deepened over months from necessity to partnership, built through shared combat and mutual respect. Marcus looked up from tactical displays. "Ready for the next mission, Commander?" "Always." Elara met his eyes, saw determination and strength. "That is the oath we swear. Duty continues regardless of personal circumstance." Through windows, storm clouds gathered over distant mountains. Lightning split the sky. Thunder answered. Weather that would have terrified her when her wolf was new and uncontrolled. Now she felt it in her bones, the storm's power matching Luna's strength that had grown with acceptance. The pack bond hummed in her mind, hundreds of wolves connected through her to the Alpha King, protected and protecting, serving and being served. Was it biological programming? Yes. Did that make it wrong? She had stopped asking. The question assumed choice and instinct were opposites, when really they were partners. "Storm's coming." Theron pulled her closer. "We have weathered worse." Elara felt their unborn children move, life persisting despite war and chaos. Together, together. He agreed, and in that word was everything. Partnership. Love. Choice made daily to stand beside each other despite biology that would have bound them regardless. Lydia spoke from her desk without looking up from analysis. "Then we make each day count, honor those who fell by living well and fighting smart. Accept that duty is privilege, not burden, and remember some missions last lifetimes." The wisdom in her young voice made Elara smile. The children would be fine, the pack would endure, the kingdom would survive whatever threats emerged next, because that was what wolves did. They protected their own. They stood together against darkness. They passed the guardian's oath from one generation to the next, eternal as moon and necessary as dawn. Outside, lightning struck close enough to shake windows. The storm had arrived. But inside the war room, the pack's leadership stood ready. Luna and Alpha, Veteran and king, mates chosen by biology and confirmed by choice every day they woke and chose again. The conspiracy was broken. Justice was served. Peace was fragile but real. And if enemies came again, let them. The Silver Wolf. Luna stood watch beside her alpha king, and their pack would face whatever came with the strength of bonds that transcended hierarchy and the courage of hearts that refused to break. The Guardian's oath had been sworn. The mission would continue. The pack would endure. That was enough. That was everything. That was the only thing that mattered when all else fell away. Together, they stood ready for whatever the future held.